May 6, 2015 Finance Committee meeting. A couple items on the agenda. We have reserve fund transfer for both Board of Selectmen Administration and Town Council. And then we have members of the Regional School Committee here. And then we'll discuss town meeting and get caught up on some minutes. So I will ask Mr. Pompriant to come forward, please.
Excuse me.
How are you, Robert?
Good. How are you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee?
Doing well, thanks. So you have two for us this evening?
Yes.
Which one would you like to start with?
We'll do the Board of Selectmen office reserve transfer first. All right. So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
members of the Finance Committee, I'm requesting a reserve fund transfer in the amount of $18,000 to be transferred to the Board of Selectmen office account number 01122. The present balance in the budget as of April the 3rd, when it was submitted to the Board of Selectmen, was $39,460. The present balance as of today, being May the 6th, is $22,140. The amount that we're requesting to be used for is to cover various unforeseen or extraordinary, but actually both unforeseen extraordinary circumstances that were absorbed by this account. Specifically, this was an extraordinary year for the Board of Selectmen office, in the sense as, you know, the budgets in the past have been pretty much level with very little changes, with the exception of this year. And the reasons are as follows, just briefly. The hiring of the assistant to the town administrator, the position was budgeted at about $48,000 originally when the FY15 budget was being put together. The candidate that the board ultimately approved and hired was given an offer at $53,000. So that was one factor. The second was the overtime account for the assistant to the town administrator. There was an unforeseen increase due to more meetings, open session meetings, hearings than originally planned held by the board, but also in July of 2014, the Board of Selectmen made a policy decision that they wanted that position to take the minutes of the executive session as well. Third, the creation of the Benefits and Payroll Department in July of 2014 and the hiring of that position. As you recall, again, in this case, the candidate that was selected through the search process was paid higher than the previous position. There was a transfer made by town meeting at the special town meeting in October to fund part of that. In this $18,000 is part of that salary coverage there. Also, the unexpected action and votes of the town meeting on May 12th of 2014, which eliminated the planning board budget and the zoning board budget. And we've discussed that before here, that though that was the action of town meeting, I think everybody can agree that the functions of planning and the functions of zoning still have to move forward in any town. Therefore, some of the office expenses that would normally be borne by those specific line items were borne by the Board of Selectmen's office. And in conclusion, and I can give you the I'll give you the exact amounts that add up to the $18,000. So the assistant to the town administrator wages is $7,818.60. The assistant to the town administrator, the overtime for open session and executive session meetings, $1,350.35. The benefits and payroll manager wages, $7,552.78. And then the supply line item, $1,278.27. And that, when I say supplies, the supplies related to zoning, some to the benefits payroll, and that adds up to the 18,000. I understand, generally, I usually come before you when there's a present balance of pretty much zero in such an account, but as you can see with the 22,000 and talking with the town accountant again today, because it's largely salary driven, there's another payroll warrant coming up. It will be down to zero quickly, and the 18,000 will cover that entire department.
Will it cover through the end of the fiscal year? Or
Yes.
It will?
Yep.
Most of this is wage related. Should we expect a RFT from the treasurer then? This is going to affect your social security line as well as your unemployment. I can send it out to her.
Through the chair, that's a good point.
I can here, so maybe if you don't mind.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Kevin? Thanks. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I can speak to the Social Security and Medicare questions. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the accountant spoke with me about a week ago, and we completed an analysis looking forward. And it looks as though there may be a slight deficit. The reasons we haven't determined yet in the Medicare line. Some would be attributed to overtime, I think. There are a couple of lengthy absences in one of the public safety departments that were unforeseen. And then the additional salaries that the town administrator previously mentioned also probably weren't allowed for and budgeted for. So we're looking at it on a bi-weekly basis going forward now, and when we get closer, we'll have more information for you. But what I can do is speak with the accountant tomorrow and get some information out to you now, so you have some preliminary information as to what you can expect.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That'd be great.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
So the questions I have, so the hiring of the benefits manager did go through a committee, correct? It was a committee that included a member of the finance committee, et cetera, okay. Was there a similar process for the assistant town administrator, or was that just a straight collect resumes and hire?
Yeah, that was hired through a hiring
process.
Yeah, we had 115 applicants, which were narrowed down to 15, which then were narrowed down to 10, which were then narrowed down to 3. And the town, I think, and I can say this after now a year of experience with both, the town was fortunate of those 3 to retain actually 2 of the positions, 2 of the candidates.
I agree. I think they've done a good job. Any other questions from the committee?
No, this one not.
No? All right.
Yes, I do. I have a couple of things I'd like
Okay.
to both ask Mr. Pompey and share with the committee. You know, I've been hunting down a copy of the Finance Committee handbook. Found it this
Sorry.
afternoon. That's okay. But I did find a lot of information on the DOR website, which I'd like to share with us. And then I will also suggest, if this is something that can be held for our next meeting 2 weeks from now, that we give some time to think about it and read at least the material in the background, because the information in the handbook is more elaborative than what was on the DLS website.
Go ahead.
Since we're only going to have to pay 1 week or one payroll cycle in the next 2 weeks. Not to say that we may not approve the request, but I think there's enough information here we shouldn't have to digest it tonight. Robert, if you could, you gave us the ATA, that would be Assistant Town Administrator, sorry, budgeted amount, which was last year at $48,000, or I'm sorry, May 2014 town meeting was $48,000, and salaried at $53,000 when Ms. Antonelli was hired. What was the overtime budgeted at town meeting for May 2014 in your line item, in your selectmen's line item?
I would have to check.
Okay.
I think it runs about 2,000.
I was going to say, that's my
2,500
memory, is
is
it's
generally-
2,000. Do you have any reason to think it would have?
No, that would have been, that sounds right.
Yes, it scares me that I know that. But go on.
Yeah, me too, but I've seen it a lot too. So. The former assistant treasurer's salary was budgeted at the Maytown meeting for the payroll benefit, or to maintain the line item, if I'm not mistaken. The payroll benefits manager was then increased at town meeting also. Is that, that's my memory, is my memory correct? Do you know what those numbers are? What the original budget was? And how the increase came to be if town meeting approved the increased budget?
For the sake of argument, we'll use rounding. The salary, the FY15 salary for the assistant treasurer would have been $56,000. And then the benefits payroll salary, I believe, is 62, I think, 62,000.
So that would account for the $6,000, roughly $6,000 difference. But if I heard you correctly, and I'm not saying I did you say that the increase was funded at town meeting?
No.
Approved or funded?
Approved, yeah. I thought the money was approved for the increase at town meeting.
No, it wasn't.
No.
No,
Okay.
we
Well,
set
at
the FY15 budget had the salary for the benefits manager still under the treasurer
Treasurer's,
at the original salary, and then last fall, we allocated the budgetary funds from the treasurer over to the Board of Selectmen.
But not the increase.
But not in the.
Correct,
That-
not an increase.
not
It was
the
just
increase that
the
was
straight dollars that were in the budget as approved by town meeting.
And when was Mr. Johnson hired for that position?
He would have been,
Must have been in
July?
We met in June.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And the Personnel Board approved the increase. I don't have any issues with that.
Mhm.
So the salary increase was voted in July of 2014, which is after,
Yeah, there was no
Mhm.
personnel board last summer.
Yeah.
There were only 2 members on the committee at that point. I had resigned.
what committee approved the salary?
It was a search committee.
Oh. So this was also a vote of the selectmen. I don't want to use an adjective that would be demeaning. I don't mean to take that position, but, so the salary of the benefits manager and the salary of the assistant town administrator were both just voted by the Board of Selectmen, not through the Personnel Board.
Please,
Mr.
Robert.
Chairman, if I may, the reclassification of the benefits payroll position, including the salary, was approved by, if you want to call it, the previous personnel board. Then there was, as you mentioned, there was no personnel board for a while. The search committee, which was appointed by the Board of Selectmen, that did include the treasurer on there, did the process using the approved reclassification by the personnel board, the salary and the job description.
Okay. But both salaries were voted by the Board of Selectmen
Mhm.
on their own, because there was no Personnel Board to
Right.
review them with. That's the only point
Yep.
I was trying to make. The reason I went through that exercise is because all of those salary increases were approved by the appointing authority prior to the October fall town meeting, at which time the funding could have been put on the warrant, as it should have been, through the budgeting process. And I drew that conclusion from the DLS and Finance Committee handbook materials. I have, luckily, 3 copies of the DLS stuff. I didn't get to print the Finance Committee. If you want it, if you don't, that's also fine. But it speaks on the last page of the document I'm giving you, specifically to under what circumstances the Finance Committee should use the reserve fund. And the very last sentence of that first paragraph reads, in general, extraordinary or unforeseen items such as an increased insurance premium or replacing a damaged police cruiser are acceptable. Salary increases are generally not an acceptable use of this service.
I read that as a salary increase from an existing position as opposed to new positions, which is what we're creating here.
And
That's
John,
my interpretation.
I don't know the answer to that. All I'm saying is I think it deserves a little more scrutiny on our part
I know.
before we set a precedent for that. This is small print, but there's other language in the handbook itself, which is a document issued by MMA and DOR that explains it in more detail. There's 156 pages to the handbook. I only got 3 pages out of it and took some highlighted material from it, and I read with difficulty, but reserve fund transfers should be used only for truly unexpected contingencies and not to compensate for, and I'm not going to read their adjectives, but compensate for budgeting, management, or predictable spending fluctuations. I would say this on its face is a guide. This is the actual rule, if you will. And a budget change, such as a salary increase, which I am not arguing over, should have more appropriately gone to
It
town
should have,
meeting.
yeah, we screwed up.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Conley is entitled to her interpretation of this.
It's an
but-
opportunity we had to set the budget, and yes, we should have probably taken that opportunity, but it was a miss, and it happens. Unfortunately, it does happen.
I agree.
I agree as well. And if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
in the almost 5 years I've been here, this Finance Committee has approved reserve fund transfers of this nature when it falls short.
It's rarely happened, but yes, we have.
Mhm.
could I have an example?
Salary, PTO payout, severance packages.
That's not salary increase.
There was one employee that got an increase that was not budgeted 3 or 4 years ago that we did an RFT for.
I'm kind of siding with what John said along the lines of we're not necessarily giving an increase to a person. We're doing it because it wasn't set in the budget for the new position properly.
With all due respect to Mr. Pomprian and to this committee, with the exception of Chris, none of us are new to how budgeting is done. And I'm not saying anyone made a mistake. I'm not saying anybody slipped up. What I'm saying is the Board of Selectmen and Mr. Pomprian should have known, that they had a fiscal responsibility to the town to budget properly, and we, as the so-called fiduciary watchdogs, it's over here. The official watchdog, fiscal watchdog for the town, and we have an obligation to look at these things closely, it's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying we turn it down, I'm just asking that we not approve it tonight, and we all do our collaborative homework and do the right thing. If we're not supposed to approve this, we shouldn't approve it, it should go to town meeting for a budget increase.
Mr. Chairman?
1 second, please.
Yeah.
My observation and my take on it is with the benefits manager, it is something that was vetted by the personnel board initially, just as a position in general. There was no personnel board at the point in which the hiring of the benefits manager occurred. The Board of Selectmen put together a search committee which did include members of the internal staff here, a member of the Finance Committee, and I believe 1 or 2 citizens on that. They took the recommendations of that committee. I'm fine with that. I look at that as an unforeseen example where the business of the town has moved and changed over the last 10 years, and when the opportunity arose, they took it to move it in the right direction. The assistant town administrator, there was no search committee on. I'll be honest, that one kind of bites me a little bit, but is it fair to the employee not to approve the salary increase? I don't look at it necessarily as we're giving a salary increase to that individual. With the assistant town administrator, it is a change and a shift in the responsibilities of the job that came about when that job was vacated. When did the prior BOS secretary give her notice that she was retiring? Was that before town meeting or afterwards?
She announced her retirement. She left in April. Her retirement being effective sometime in May, I believe. Because she had some buyout and so forth. She was on the books, I think, till June 1st.
The question was, when did she give her?
Yes, the question is when she gave it. She gave it in April. And at that point, at that point, we were getting ready to go to print with the budget, correct?
We could have amended the salary on town meeting.
Yes, we could have amended the salary, we could have done 1,000 things.
Or we could have done
okay?
it in October.
Yes, we should have.
That doesn't mean we should do it by
Mr.
reserve fund
Chairman, with all
transfer.
due respect, do
Robert.
not be so quick to just concede to one's opinion.
I'm not conceding to
It's not
one's
conceding.
opinion.
No, you keep saying we should have, we should have. I respectfully disagree, because
It was an opportunity, and yes, no, because I believe in the transparency of government, and I believe
As do
that
I.
we need to allow town meeting to have the final say whenever possible. But, you know, on that front, I think also at the point where town meeting approved the move of the budget from the treasurer's office to the Board of Selectmen's office, in some roundabout way, I look at that as approval for the hiring of the benefits manager in general, though we did not put the correct increase in salary to cover that.
The material I read, in just response to that one comment, we didn't put the right amount in the budget. Material I had the opportunity to read indicates that a budgeting error is not an unforeseen, unpredictable, emergent, or urgent error. It can be funded through a request to town meeting, a late request, but a request. If town meeting says no, it can't go through the reserve fund. You cannot,
Right.
right, so it has to be budgeted by town meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Robert.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, that's Ms. Conley's interpretation that it was a budget error. It was not a budget error. I will maintain, as will the town accountant and finance committee, in consultation with the DOR and town council, that all of these actions are appropriate, and to imply that I would come before this committee for reserve fund transfer, which, for the record, was transmitted to the Board of Selectmen and approved by the Board of Selectmen on April 7th and transmitted to your committee on April 3rd, and in this 11th hour, again, in front of the cameras, to question procedural matters which are not founded, that these decisions were made transparent, that town meeting not only knew that we were moving in the direction of the benefits payroll direction, but town meeting approved at the October 2014 meeting the transfer of the money from the Treasurer's Department to this position. The position of benefits payroll went through the town's reclassification process. It was approved by the Personnel Board. It was approved by the Board of Selectmen. The search committee, which included Mr. Kilcommons and the treasurer, went through the whole process. We hired this position, put the position in place in July of 2014, and before this committee, and I'm not sure if Ms. Conley was on it, but we discussed that there would be an issue of a shortfall with the money. Granted, it happened after town meeting. With respect to the assistant to the town administrator, for the record, the 2015 draft budget originally was at the $53,000 amount. I had put it down at $46,000 hoping that there would be a cost savings. We have realized the cost savings in a different form. We had the opportunity to hire, in my opinion, an extremely qualified candidate, and it's not just my opinion, but also the board's and so forth. And that opportunity presented itself, and it was acted accordingly and put into place on June 2nd of 2014. The rest of the reserve fund transfer consists of, which I know aren't in question, but just for the record, other supplies and actions that were unforeseen. Finally, the assistant to the town administrator has performed, at my direction, the duties and the administrative support to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is now under the Board of Selectmen, which was unforeseen, and those functions needed to be performed. To imply in the 11th hour, when this was submitted before, to frankly, Mr. Chairman, I feel, again, in this case, to be sort of sabotaged at the last minute, but with all due respect, the high theater of tonight, that to wait on it for what?
It's going to be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's my question to you.
To wait
Ms.
for,
Could
Conley
I
is
just
why-
make one response to
No.
the comment that Mr. Pomprian made?
Can you answer my question first? What would we benefit by waiting
Yeah.
3 weeks?
and where was this information,
Please,
or I should say theory?
Robert.
Yes.
What would the benefit be for this
What would
committee?
the harm be?
What would the harm be?
The
What would the
harm, there's no harm, there's money in the budget to fund the salary for the next 3 weeks. The benefit would be, we may learn something, we may learn that we have not always done things correctly, or even better, we may learn that it's perfectly okay to do what Mr. Pomperand is asking us to do. That would certainly make me feel more comfortable responding to the citizenry that I'm supposed to be what the watchdog for, and I would hope it would give all of us more comfort level. But woe if we shouldn't be doing this because there's salary changes that could have been brought before town meeting, that may still be able to be brought before town meeting.
When?
When?
We've gone to print for the Springtown meeting.
And if I could now make my short response to
Please.
Mr.
If I have a rebuttal.
All right,
My response,
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
you-
to you, through you,
Yep.
sure.
I don't know when we were to have discussed this before tonight. You might have received it, or it might have been submitted on May 3rd, but this is the first meeting we've had at which we can discuss this. We aren't to discuss it outside of a meeting, as my understanding of the open meeting law.
No.
And that would be my
It is
response to the 11th hour comment.
Chris?
My take on this, if we're going to be leaning on this as a purpose for holding why we're doing it, is that this is not a mere salary increase. This is an extraordinary circumstance. It's not a simple process. This has been something that's been discussed for the entire year that I've been here.
Mhm.
This is not new news. So if we are leaning on this to hold it and against it, because this is an extraordinary circumstance. That's all.
All right, I don't want to belittle the point anymore. I will, if there is one, take a motion for approval of the reserve fund transfer in the amount of $18,000 for the Board of Selectmen office.
You don't need my reasons why. I'll make a motion to approve a reserve fund transfer of $18,000 to account 01122, the Board of Selectmen budget.
I will second.
It's first and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No surprise? No?
No.
And, Mr. Chairman, for your information, the committee's information, I will be inquiring of DOR on my own, and I will provide the committee with whatever response I receive
Thank you
as
very
to
much.
whether or not we should or should not be doing this way. I'm not taking any issue with any individual. I'm not taking any issue with any position. I'm not taking any issue with any salary approval process, even though I don't necessarily agree with all of the way that the salary approval was done. Those are not my issues. My issues are purely what the reserve fund and the finance committee's role in this should or should not be. And if we've been doing it wrong, shame on us. If we shouldn't be doing it, shame on us. If we've done it right, fine, we'll all know, and you'll not hear another word from me on it.
And the last thing I'll say to that is, you know what, if we have been doing it wrong, then it's a learning experience, and I welcome that, okay? But I just don't see the point of waiting 3 weeks at this point
And
for approval. So
that's fine,
that's
I
why I
made the
moved the vote
request,
along.
and the committee chose otherwise. However, if it's a learning experience, it's not just to us.
Correct,
There are a lot of other people apparently who need to learn as well.
correct. Ms. Pomfrey, you have another one.
And not to belabor the point, but if it is determined that we have been doing it correctly, let the record reflect that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next one is a reserve fund transfer for the town council legal services account in the amount of $18,000 as well. No coincidence, or I should say, perhaps, I guess it is a coincidence, they both are that. This is from April the 17th. I'm looking for a transfer in the amount of $18,000 to be transferred to the town council legal services line, account number 01151. The present balance in the budget as of April 8th was $486.93. With only $486.93 remaining in the account, the town has yet to receive the March, April, May, and June town council legal service bills. We have received the March bill since the writing submission of this transfer to the board. The March bill, for the sake of discussion, was $8,000. It's $7,900 for March. Additionally, the town did prevail in an arbitration decision with AFSCME 93 involving the planning board issues. For the record, there is still open issues at the Division of Labor Relations. This was a separate arbitration. The town did prevail in that decision in that the independent arbitrator determined that the town did not violate the collective bargaining agreement when town meeting zeroed out those lines. The award, the cost for the arbitration is $3,000. $1,500 is borne by AFSCME 93. $1,500 is borne by the town. So for the sake of tonight's discussion, that's $9,500, if you will, that we have to pay in the 486. This budget continues to be driven by unfortunate, unexpected expenses, unforeseen expenses, which we've discussed, unfortunately, too many times in this committee. It's sort of like some of the insurance accounts. You never know what legal action, you do your best, but what legal action is going to come against the town. The first one, since the budget was set by town meeting on July 1st of 2014, since that time, a lawsuit had been brought against the town in the matter of Bolduc versus the town of Ayer. That was unforeseen. Those costs were unforeseen in the account. I've come before you before for the funding pertaining to that. For the record, I am just waiting for the court's settlement sign off, and that all that information will be made public. The United States versus the Boston and Maine Railroad versus the town of Ayer is ongoing. We are a third-party defendant in this federal environmental case. Since January of 2015, so the first 6 months of this year, there's $3,126 that were unforeseen that have been in legal costs on this. In the matter of Gittner versus the town of Ayer, why I say these are ongoing, in some of these instances like this one, which has going into its third year, one would say, well, we know about it, budget accordingly, but as anybody can appreciate around this table, the direction that any case or legal matter takes may have different costs and so forth to it. Actually, that pertains to all of these. So some of these that I'm mentioning, or folks that are watching, listening, may say, well, some of these have been going on for more than a year. And we do take that into account into building the budget, but a case like an insurance matter, so forth, can take an unexpected turn. The police officer, Matthew Power, 111F medical status, this unfortunately remains ongoing. We had hoped, when I say we, town council, the police chief, and myself, to resolve this in November of 14, but this matter continues on. And lastly, on the AFSCME 93, which is the Town Hall Clerical Union, regarding the planning board issues, though, as I just mentioned, one of the issues was resolved through arbitration, there are still some others that are pending before the Division of Labor Relations. So what Ms. Cabri and I did in talking to Attorney Rich, who's the general counsel for the town, we looked at March, April, May, and June in taking these into account, and came up and estimate, we believe that the $18,000 will make this account whole through the year, because also the June, which we may decide to do with the June bill, they give you the option of splitting that, in other words, splitting, and we probably will do that. But we know how this account has been. I don't want to completely say that I wouldn't be back, but because now there's a super town meeting scheduled for June 8th,
True.
which we didn't know about. Now, Mass Development will reimburse us
Reimburse, okay.
for those costs, including town council,
But
but
not
we'll,
on June 9th.
right, it'll be more like September, but we'll have to front the costs. So,
Okay. We've heard all of this stuff before. Any questions from the committee? I'll open it up.
Suggestion, but no questions.
No question.
Takes a suggestion, huh?
I don't know the answer to this, I don't know if anyone else does, Mary might. Do we have the ability to increase the request? Can we vote more money if we feel it's appropriate?
I don't believe we can.
Yeah, I think we
It's
have done that
we have
in
to
the
vote the
past.
submission. We can vote less, we can approve less, but
So-
we cannot vote increase it and cover more.
We cannot.
We cannot.
It sounded low to me too, is that what you're thinking?
Yep. I would make it 24, 25, with the obvious condition that, what isn't spent reverts back to the reserve fund. But
If it's the estimate that town council gave us, why don't we run with that? And, I know, for example, we'll probably see each other again before
Yes,
the end of the year
Yeah.
for
I think
something.
everybody around the table, because since even April's unexpected, we didn't anticipate the arbitration award. There've been things since
Right.
then, but,
I don't even know if an increase to 20 would.
well, let's-
Right.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we could
20
do
should
20, we
cover
could do
it.
24, and he could still be coming back. So,
Well, I was thinking 8,000.
yeah, it's a good
times
thought,
3
but I
months.
think that since the request is 18, we should leave it at 18 for our purposes tonight. Any other questions or comments? No, being none, if there is one, I'll take a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve a transfer of 18,000 to the town council line item number 01151.
Second.
And the first and the second, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, it's unanimous.
You might want to just set up a template for that one.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nice PDF, save some time.
yeah.
Do we have copies of the memo you read from,
Mhm.
Robert,
Yep.
for the,
Yep, this is the one for the BOS one,
okay.
and 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 that's the town council one. Yep.
And that's it, right?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you,
Thank you.
and have a good
Appreciate
evening.
your time.
Yep,
Thank you.
likewise, thank you all.
Robert, before you head off, Lisa was asking for this. That's the original copy.
Oh,
You can scan it, and I'll take the original back at some point, just as a point in the future.
scan it right now, and I'll send it to you.
All right, thank you. All right, sorry, apologize for the delay in that. Moving on, we have members of the Ayer Shirley Regional School Committee here. I'd like to invite them up. Mr. Kelly, Mr. Gleason.
Congratulations on your election.
Thank you.
Re-election? It
It was a
must have
tight
been
one.
a very
I
tough
was up
race.
late waiting for the results.
I think the sign in my yard helped.
Thank you.
A lot of sleepless nights leading up to that one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is a new document. I was going to say, I think I'll have this in here. but
No,
this
prepared
is-
for the meeting.
Thank
this
you for
evening.
dating it. I love dated documents.
April 22nd, 2016.
Printed on the 6th, it's up on the
Yeah,
top,
oh.
yeah.
I'll turn it over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thanks for seeing us this evening. We wanted to take the opportunity to meet with you. We appreciate the opportunity to address you. We initially were concerned about some things that we had heard at a previous meeting. We wanted to come and clear up any misconceptions, share some information that we've put together, and in the end, kind of explain some of the challenges that we face in the hopes that we can partner with Ayer, and we'll have a similar conversation with the folks in Shirley to partner with them as the way that we see the challenges that we face, primarily from a fiscal perspective, because otherwise things are going pretty good. So we did put some slides together. We're not going to try not to bore you too much, but there are a few things that we did want to share just to make clear over time.
Do you have an extra copy so I can write on one?
Yeah, sure.
'Cause I don't want to write on the one that I'm going to keep with the minutes. Thank you.
No, I brought mine.
Yeah, isn't it
Mine
sad?
either.
It's all those computer screens we've had to look at.
Yeah, well, you know, trying to
Also age.
conserve on paper, just what, by the way, for the record, this color printing did not happen within the regional school district. I did this outside.
Looks like it happened on my printer.
Yeah, it wasn't a great printer. Just by way of information, you're probably aware as far as the current budgeting season, and this is really not about the current budgeting season, but just as an FYI, our assessment was turned down in Shirley the other night.
Didn't hear that.
And we had met as a school committee last night. We have not recertified a number. We're going to Airtown meeting with the number that you supported and the Board of Selectmen supported, and we will...
This is your second number, right?
Yeah,
Is
because
that-
the warrant
Yeah.
has
The warrant has
warrant
the
has a
higher
lower
number.
has the initial number on it, because that's what we had as the
The
certified.
warrant doesn't have the number following our reduction from
No.
464.
I'm sorry, Robert?
I'm sorry.
My apologies.
This came up at our last meeting, that's why I'm curious, guys.
It does, if you remember on April 21st, the joint meeting,
Yeah,
that question was posed, and it was posed to town council. And what we'll call the second number legally could be put on the warrant.
and was it?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
okay, because my memory is
Thanks
we were
for
going to
clar-
leave it
Yeah, that was my
and then
memory
reduce
also.
it on
Sorry.
town meeting
So
floor.
it does have the adjusted number.
Okay, good. So just from a process perspective, we'll go through the town meeting and see how the community responds to that assessment vote, and then make a determination following that as to our next steps in discussions with the town of Shirley. I think it's fair to say, because last night's meeting was public and recorded, the committee is unanimous in its feeling that we've reduced the budget as much as we can to maintain the programs we have. The reason the budget was increased as much as it was all fixed costs. We didn't add any programming. We're actually moving money from some places to create new programming, but none of the monies added were a result of new programs, and
But the
so.
result of the new building, basically.
What's that?
Result of the new building, basically.
Only one of the areas around
Just
utilities,
the,
really.
yeah, just the
others
energy and
were
utilities.
Pension assessment and
Good point, yeah, yeah.
salaries and things of that nature. We have a list later in this document. about
Yeah.
But nothing that you had any control over in terms of the ability to not pay them, not fund them.
Correct,
Yeah.
contractual.
Correct. I mean, yeah, risk management went up, healthcare went up 3% last year, went up 10.6
10%
on us this
yeah.
year. And,
Right, us too.
so that's a big number with the number of employees we have. So briefly, so we have an assessment
Excuse
history.
me, Pat,
Oh, go ahead.
one quick comment on what we
Sure.
did offer to the Shirley Town meeting, and we would still do this, assuming it happens, but that's part of the problem of why we can't recertify a number now, is there too many assumptions, is if we got additional revenues that the House budget has right now, we would reduce the assessment to both towns by that amount of extra revenue. So that is something we would do, but right now, we don't have enough information. The Senate's just deliberating, conference committee, governor, who knows where things will end up. But we did make that commitment to the town of Shirley and same to the town of Ayer, that should our revenues go up, we'll reduce the assessment accordingly. I think what 66,000 is
66,000.
about the number right now
Yeah.
that the House would have additional than what we budgeted.
Okay.
So it's not a lot, but we would pass that through.
Okay.
And we told Shirley Town meetings.
We'll come back to that at the end, because the original governor's budget actually cut the kindergarten grant, which was an $89,000 grant, plus it cut that same 66 he's talking about. So that was a loss of over 150 in revenue based on the governor's budget. And Chapter 70 increase of $20 a student, where the running norm for 4 years has been 25. That's what the House has approved, but the Senate hasn't spoken yet. And there's some rumblings from Jamie Eldridge, that they might be looking for some revenue generation, and so that'll throw everything into
Chaos.
a different state. So we'll see what comes of that. So we did want to put on paper what the assessment history has been from the district perspective. And if you go to the top of page 3 as opposed to the eye chart on 2, one of the points that we want to make is over the course, this is the entire budget history of the region, right? FY12 through FY16. And at the bottom line, you see what is the increase in the district budget. Now that it does not represent the increase to the assessment to the towns.
And that's what we focus on at this table. I think that's
That's
where the
right.
disconnect is, but, yeah.
That's right, which is part of the challenge. It's part of our challenge in communicating what's really happening, and it's part of the, coming up with the funds challenge on the part of the towns. That the increases to the assessment have gone up more like 5% average, but we've only had 2% average increase in our budget to actually work with as a result of increased costs and reduced revenue on the federal and state levels. Wanted to share with you some numbers with respect to charter and vocational and choice. If you remember back when we were talking about the region, talking about forming the region, talking about the high school building, and getting the high school building approved.
Seems like so long ago.
Like another era. Well, what we talked a lot about, did a lot of research on, and anticipated, and we're trying to address, especially initially with the regionalization, and then secondarily with the school, was the alarming trending of school choice students, right, leaving the district. This first section is on vocational, but the trending was exactly the same there as well. What you'll see on the charter and the choice is that we have stabilized and in fact decreased as a result of regionalization. Here in vocational, you'll notice this current year was a peak. Now that peak, there was an abnormally high number of Shirley kids who chose to go to Voc school this current year, current ninth graders, and this is what this represents. Far disproportionate compared to population-wise, compared to the same number of kids who could Ayer. It was about 14 kids from Ayer, and it was twice as much from Shirley.
No, it was only, well, as far as an increase year over year, it was single digits, like 8 for Ayer, but about 16 or 18.
Well, that's what it was.
That's the increase, not the total.
2 to 1, yeah.
Within this figure, is Parker rolled in there? I know it's not a traditional Voc school, but
It's not.
We have a charter slide.
We addressed that. We addressed that separately.
Thanks.
So we saw the trend heading down until this past year. So we took a little closer look, and in looking at the history of vocational students, what you really should see are peaks and valleys. There are classes where it tends to be more appropriate. And a reasonable choice, and we support education across the board, and if it's the right choice, it's the right choice for that kid. This particular 8th grade class had an abnormally high amount of free and reduced lunch students and an abnormally high ratio of boys to girls. And it seems to, those two factors together seem to be part of the reason why we had more kids choose the vocational high school that particular year. Now, we won't know until we get another year or two to see if we go back on this flattening trend. And again, we're not against the vocational school. All we want is for the towns to promote the high school that we have for the students that it's appropriate for. And I think what we had happening prior to regionalization and prior to the new high school was more of, I'm going to go to the tech because I just don't want to go to that place. That's what we have been working on reducing, and it looks like that trend started, and then we had a peak with a particular class, which at least that's what we hope that scenario is. And that will happen occasionally over the course of time. But we do generally want to see kids choosing our school because it's delivering the programs and services that they want. And clear up any misconceptions about what is or isn't happening there. Like we put some information out about the recent advanced placements. And, if you want your student to take AP classes and do well, then they should be going to Ayer Shirley Regional, because we had 89% of our students get a 3, 4, or 5 on the AP placement. And that, if you were to compare that to the tech in this particular scenario, they had less than 10% get that score level. So if
That's what you need to get the college credit. And so that's why the kids are taking the time and investing the effort in such a hard curriculum, because they want the college credit. And it's happening here, it's not happening there. So, but again, they're not necessarily supposed to be a college preparatory school. A lot of kids do go to college. That's not their main aim, whereas that ours is to be general, right? It's 2 or 4 year college, into the world of work or military. We're just covering all the boards, but obviously we're not a vocational school. But they're obviously not going to be as strong as a general kid looking for the 4-year college.
So the simple table at the bottom, just to compare pre and post region and what the trends were over the course of those periods of time. From FY06 to 11, Voc students increased 63% in Ayer, 92% in Shirley, and then 12 to 15 actually decreased as a percentage of population, 8 points in Ayer, and increased at a lesser rate in Shirley. And we think that's a more appropriate reflection of the right students choosing the right school for themselves.
Pat, if I may, just before we move on from that, though,
Yeah.
if you'll notice on the top sheet where Shirley is in orange, it's about a 55 Ayer, 45 Shirley foundation enrollment split, but yet they're sending way more kids to the tech, and not on a percentage basis, on raw numbers, right? And so we've begun to raise that with Shirley, and personally, I think it's something Pat touched on earlier, that it's a belief in some respects that's just potentially a better school. They've also been a member of it for a longer time than they've been a member of this region. They used to tuition kids to Lunenburg and Ayer. Some went to Lunenburg, some went to Ayer, some went to the Voc. They had choices, and people went separate ways. So I think it's just hopefully a cultural thing. It's just going to take a little time to reverse itself to get them thinking of this is the region they belong to now. That's their high school up on the hill as much as it is an Ayer kids' high school. And hopefully see that come down, but that's alarming. I mean, and they felt it with a big assessment increase from the Neshoba Tech this year. So it really got the finance committee's attention, the selectmen's attention, and so we're trying to reinforce the message that let's send the kids who want to go there for the vocational programs they offer, not because someone thinks it's a better school, quote unquote. So we're trying to get some attention from them on this too to help us promote it. In fact, I've been sending emails roughly weekly. Sometimes it takes me a couple weeks to come up with a relevant topic to promote something that's going on that involves Shirley kids doing great stuff in the district. So when our band won a bronze medal at the MICA, it's a Massachusetts Interscholastic Concert and Choir or something. Great achievement. A lot of Shirley kids are in that band that were part of that. The AP test scores that Pat mentioned. I think of some other things quick. Robotics.
I was going to say
the mentors and the children who participated in robotics who were part of the success they've had, and making sure they realize the great stuff's going on. And by the way, you've got a lot of Shirley families that are benefiting and being part of that and helping to drive it.
And seeing themselves as part of the whole group rather than...
As our Board of Selectmen has done, is in public recognize some of these groups and maybe trying to get their Board of Selectmen too. So that's on television over there and on cable. It's in the newspaper articles to say, wow, there was a girl, there was 3 girls who applied to go to a program up at Red Hat Software in Westford. All Girls Challenge, it was called. It's a STEM program trying to get girls interested in that. They went up on a weekend. 2 of them, of the 3, were from Shirley. One was, and they broke the kids up amongst groups of different towns. So these kids got together in a group to work on a project. They didn't know each other. One of these girl, I'm in Keogh, a 6th grader from Shirley, was on the winning team that had a design for they called it the W pad. It was a iPad basically for disabled people who were in wheelchairs, W for wheelchair. So this girl went up there. 2 of the 3 girls are Shirley. This girl from Shirley's on the winning team. She gets to go to Red Hat's annual conference that's coming up in June. They're going to have a special Women in Technology lunch, and so she gets to go to that as part of the winning team. So make sure that the townspeople there understand that the good stuff that's happening to Shirley children by being part of this district. So we're working on that.
John will do a story about it. Hopefully John will do a story about it.
Anytime he wants to contact, I'm sure. And actually, he's been very supportive when we have something that we like
Yeah.
him to promote. He's great, so I appreciate your help, Joe. Sorry about that, Pat. Thanks for indulging me on the vote.
One of the other trends, and actually the header on this is wrong because I only had data going to 14 until about 48 hours ago when we got some more data on 15, which is extremely encouraging. We were looking obviously to change choice trends. And we were able to flatten out. You see in FY14 there was a little bit of a differential, and what you don't see is FY15, where actually we crossed the border this year in choice in exceeding choice out, where we were net positive revenue with respect to choice for the first time in
Ever? Well, no, almost.
But the first time for the region. It was always true in Ayer. It was never true in Shirley.
Matter
But
of fact, the
part of that was
number were Shirley kids coming over.
yeah. Part of that was because there was 100 some odd Shirley kids coming to high school in Ayer. So
No, not just high school
It's
tuition.
not really
Lower
apples.
grades as choice.
Right.
About 45 kids from Shirley were choicing into Ayer at the lower
Oh,
grades.
that's good.
yeah.
Went up to
That
Page
was- that
Hill
was the
Top
point.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So that accounts for some of the big drop in Ayer choice, right? Because that they became part of the districts, they didn't count them anymore.
They're no more.
so.
They're not choice anymore.
But yeah, Ayer was very positive. It was eroding though. I mean, prior regionalization, it was eroding from over $1 million a year revenue source down to like 400,000 or 500,000. It was, the trend was obvious.
Again, just looking at the trends over time, FY03 to 11, prior to regionalization, choice out had increased nearly 27%, and since the region, choice out has decreased to 2.1, and that doesn't include, it's actually higher than that now when we add the FY15 data to it. Charter students, of which is primarily the kids who go to Parker Charter. There are some kids who go to a few other charters, but there's just a couple here and there, a couple that go to Worcester. I think it's a total of 6 or 7 of all the kids who go to charter, and there's, I want to say, 60-something that are at Parker. Aaron Shirley kids at Parker at this point.
I'm sorry.
It's in that neighborhood. But it's a concern. Obviously it's a concern to us because it's a hefty check. It's about $1 million still that gets sent from the region to the charter school. Now you can see that it in fact has decreased since the region formed, modestly, but the trend is the way that we would like to see it. Again, not to say that some kids shouldn't go there. I think it's a specific type of education, and for the right kids, it's a great fit. But I think, again, this trend that we saw prior to regionalization was too dramatic an increase and was more a sign of people not wanting to stay rather than wanting to go. Right? Instead of choosing to go towards something, they were choosing just to leave something. And so we're very encouraged by this trend. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to flatten out at. I think that's yet to be determined. Probably 2 or 3 more years of trending would reflect that appropriately.
The comment I would add there is, I don't think the general public really understands what happens with charter tuition. I mean, we pay practically the full cost of what we educate a child at. So if our average cost is $11,000 a kid, that's what we send to the charter school. The state reimbursement is very, very small. So for example, the cherry sheets that came out from the House budget, if they were to hold, Pat said about $1 million going out, we get $75,000 from the state in charter reimbursement. Because it's a 6-year program at Parker's, which is where we lose most of the kids, right? They might go 6 years. And over time, that reimbursement falls, and by their final years, we're picking up basically the full check. So $11,000 per student. Choice is only $5,000.
Right.
Charter, more than double. And I don't think people realize that, for example, even at town meeting, when you vote for our assessment, you might think, oh, the money's staying in the Ayer Regional School District.
$1 million
Well,
is
the
going
state
to
losses,
charter.
it follows the kid. So if the kid leaves and goes to Parker, some of that assessment money is being used to fund that tuition of the kid going over there. So it's
Yeah,
a-
and we focused on the choice out, being such a significant percentage of the budget that is actually, being paid by the towns and leaving the district.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, and I think that's the biggest challenge that the district has. But it sounds
Yeah.
like things are starting to trend.
The trends are right. We'd like them to be a little more dramatic than they are, but they're
Well, we
certainly
always-
trending correctly, yeah.
And we'll touch on, I'm going to talk about high school enrollment later specifically, but one of the things mentioned in regionalization was when the high school is completed. Now, we've already seen reversals just in the fact it's being built, but it's not done. It's still 5-6 months till it is done. We'll talk about the trends in enrollment there that are pretty dramatic in the right way. So we're still not there at the final phase, and yet we're seeing all the right things happening. So.
By the way, we did get an update. It was some welding that was going on, landed on some insulation, it smoldered. There were no flames, there was no damage.
A lot of smoke. but
Yeah,
Great fire department.
no damage, no problem.
They couldn't get their trucks in there, by the way. They
Back
had-
in there?
they had-
Oh,
they
it's
had to
all
back
under,
one of them in to get there, but
yeah, I'm sure of it. They're laying the slab for that landing area.
good, that'll
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, any questions on that?
No,
Yeah. Okay.
So I just want to go through a few things that came out of the story, and I did go watch the video of this particular meeting. I think it was March 25th, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
No offense to Mr. Bishop or the newspaper, but trying to, in 6 or 10 column inches of an
Yeah.
article, trying to capture a half-hour discussion, context, how people were saying things, right, you can't. So I said, well, before I jump to any conclusions on it, I'll go watch the video, and I did. And so I thought it was still worth kind of trying to make some points about things that were stated there that I took a little issue with. So the first one is, there was a comment made about that Shirley has an obligation to fund their part of regionalization, and Ayer is carrying them. And there's nothing we can do as a school committee to allow Shirley to do anything special for Shirley. The regional agreement governs that. It's governed it since inception. Yes, there's this phase-in where Ayer is contributing some money to help Shirley through the equalization of their foundation enrollment costs that they're supposed to cover. But just want to make it clear, there's nothing being done in the budget to help Shirley, nor can it be done. It would have to go to town meeting. So it's just a formula that's applied based on what we want our budget to be, and the costs are divvied up that way, and that's the same thing's happening this year. There's nothing that we're trying to do to ease Shirley's burden, or could we, if we wanted to. It's governed by the regional agreement, so I just want to make sure that that's clear to the public.
I think part of what comes out of, I guess, comments like that is also when you look at the budget cycle, et cetera, and, Shirley is a very limiting partner. And the phase-in has actually, in my opinion, I think it's actually hurt them more than it's helped them, because every budget cycle, they instantly get a 2% increase on the assessment before the assessment is even set, because of that shift of $100,000. So I think that can also be misconstrued into comments that they're not holding our obligations, that they are a very limiting partner at times when we have discussions. I know last year we went through a lot because there was an issue with local aid. The assessment was coming in much higher, and it was getting to a point where, from our perspective, where we look primarily at the assessment, I looked at the assessment over the entire phase-in, and you realize, well, we're paying an extra, I think it was $1.5 million into the school district, and Shirley's calling for huge cuts to the school budget, which then would kind of unravel a lot of the programs that were in place. And that's where a lot of, last year we had a lot of rhetoric around that. This year it's a little different because I think some of the administration in Shirley, they recognize what their issue is. They're just trying to, figure out how to right the ship as best as they can.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't disagree. And matter of fact, one thing that Superintendent Malone has done, and maybe it was just good for new eyes coming in and taking a look at this, and she never experienced the process and what led to it. Okay, explain this to me, how does it work? So then she's like, well, wait a second, why do we lump that in with their assessment? We need to show it to them as like, here's what the assessment would be without the phase-in. And it's not an increase to our operating budget when the money shifts, it's just a reduction on their side, an increase in their side. And they signed up and agreed to it in the regional agreement, and they're
I think
liable.
they asked for it.
But I'm not sure. the
They did
history of
actually,
if-
yeah,
Yeah, they
they
asked
actually
for it.
did, yes.
And we labored long and hard as a group, not this group.
I know the planning
necessarily.
committee, Pat was part of it, came out of that group, that was
Right.
the idea to help
Yeah.
make it gradual, and then the towns agreed to it, but I think we've done it appropriately this year to show them, here's what your real number is, you want a 5% increase, we're giving you 5.7. Now, just because the 107 that you agreed to 5 years ago bumps that up into, closer to 8%, that's,
Right.
you agreed
That's
to
what
that.
you wanted.
Right. This is what you asked for, and you don't get to then say, well, we can't afford that, cut it out. No, you need to, you're obligated to do what you said you'd do in the regional agreement. So, yeah, we're having that discussion with them, and I credit Dr. Malone for once she realized what it was, saying, no, we can't show this just lumped together. We've got to pull it out and say, this is what your real assessment is. This is our operating budget, and this is just a flip of money because we all agree to it. And I hope it starts to sink in. There's only one more year to go, but I think it.
Yeah. By year 6, they'll get it.
Yeah. Hopefully.
They'll be wondering where it went.
The second bullet here, where I think there was some questions about enrollment, Pat's covered the broader ones. So the high school in particular, I wanted to point out. So in 2012, the first year regionalization, we had 307 kids in the high school. This year, we're up to 341, which is up 11% from year one. If you take the size of the 8th grade group, which is actually a pretty good sized 8th grade group, and look at trends of how the percentage of 8th graders who've come here, we're expecting 110 to 120 kids of the 140 something 8th graders to matriculate to Ayrshire, the regional high up the hill, which would put us at least at 400, possibly somewhat over. So that would be a 30% increase if that holds from year one. So at the high school, it's absolutely doing what we had hoped it would do and said it would do. The senior class this year is 55. The junior class coming in, following up, is 95. Each class is 90 plus. I think the freshman might even be 101, 102 if,
Yeah.
and then, like I said, we're looking at 110, 120 coming in behind that.
The 8th grade class, I think, is one of the largest classes that we've had. in a
It's
long
over
time.
140, where last year's was around 133 or something. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's larger, and we're going to hopefully get a big chunk of them. And even just based on current trend, it's 110, 120. If it gets a little bit higher because of the things we'll talk about in programming in a minute, plus the fact the building's almost done and all the momentum that we're seeing, then it could be even closer to 125. Right? I mean, we don't know. But
Well, you know what's going to happen. People are going to complain about the student-to-teacher ratio.
Oh, it's always-
It's going to happen.
Well, we can get more
Yeah,
teachers
that's
if we
okay.
have more money.
And just the district in general, it's basically flat from 2012 to 2015, 1655, and it's right now 1657. And it's been a couple up and downs through the years, but since we started regionalization, we're +2 total. Where we've seen a little bit of shrinkage is at the elementary schools, and it's not a choice issue, it's more, I think, of a birth rate issue or whatever. So Mary Malone's putting some data together on that, because I asked her, are we losing enrollment at the lower grades just because there's less kids in the towns, or are we losing them to other towns? And her preliminary data that she mentioned to me was, it looks like it's just there's less kids. Our choice out rate at elementary isn't going up a great deal that would account for that. So, and I think the enrollment study that was done during the regional study group predicted that there would be some drop off in enrollment, which is what led to building the high school only at 495 capacity as well.
Yeah, it did.
But the enrollment is not an issue. It's actually all going in a great direction, and just want to make sure that was understood. And as Pat mentioned, school choice has now turned net positive. If you look at the cherry sheets that have come out based on the House budget, those are the numbers. We've got almost 800,000 coming in. We're down to about 737, 738 going out, and we're plus 57K, as that is now actually a revenue source. And the belief and the hope over time is that delta continues to widen, and we get choice becomes even more of a
That would
of a
draw more
revenue
in
source.
from the area.
I'm sorry, Chris?
That would draw more in from the area, from Lunenburg and from...
Yeah, last night we actually voted to accept choice again next year, but only at grades 6 through 12. We're closing the elementaries down because we'd have to look at adding staff. or something.
Class size.
Yeah, exactly. So we are.
We already have, what'd you say, 68 students registered for kindergarten, in Page Hilltop next year, and it's May. We usually pick up a decent number of kids
Over
from
the summer.
move-ins over the summer, so we don't want to be above 80, or we need to add another kindergarten class.
So we're not taking any
You go,
choice at
you
the
can't,
elementaries.
you know, you don't want,
Yeah.
you can't put 22 kindergartners in a classroom, so
I think we had
that's
that
just
many in
not, that's
mind
not fair
in
to
my
the teachers or the
I have no problems
kindergartners.
with my 3 at home.
Yeah.
On top of slide 8, there's just it's italicized because I just pulled it right out of the article about, Musil observed the programs are improving and are even better than they were 2 years ago. Hoot agreed, and he said there are changes, but they're coming at a cost. And just for this fiscal year, I want to remind everybody that as we talked about earlier, I don't need to beat a dead horse here, but, the cost increases that where the assessment is high is because of these fixed cost items that are listed. That we really have little control over. And if we move down to slide 9 at the top, program enhancements. Everything in this slide is, as Pat mentioned earlier, is just moving money around, having different priorities, looking at creative ways to do professional development and other things that we can do to have a more rigorous program. So not everybody sees all these meetings, so even though Mary Malone was here and went through this before, I just want to quickly run through it again. We're going to make French 1 and Spanish 1 available in the 8th grade. So we're also trying to make the middle school more rigorous so that people don't leave to go to Parker Charter for 7th or 8th grade. So we want to make people that are looking for higher academics realize it's also not just at the high school, it's the middle school. So based on the teacher recommendation, after kids have had a half year of French and Spanish in 7th grade, they'll be able to take the high school course. And that teacher that we have is qualified to teach the course. There's no hiring of a teacher. She's going to just teach the high school curriculum. Kids will walk in freshman year with some credits already. They're redoing the STEM course at the middle school to make it more rigorous and make it a feeder into the high school program. And that's leads to the next bullet around these different pathways that were created. So there is one that's a STEM pathway. So if kids who want to take that as a kind of a major, if you will have to take a certain amount of courses around engineering, lab sciences, mathematics that would get them actually a stamp on their transcript when they leave the high school and apply to colleges that they completed the STEM pathway at Shirley Regional High School. So that would be something that will show up on their transcript and look good for them as they apply. And then the minimum pathway is the Mass Core, which is what the state says that you would have to take to complete high school and be accepted into a public school, university or community college. We all had similar things when we were in school, where you had 2 years of foreign language, 3 years of lab science, year of U.S. history or civics, 3 years of mathematics, et cetera. I think 4 years actually. So,
Yeah, 4 years.
so that's the minimum. And then we also have early college, where we have programs at Fitchburg State for dual enrollment, as well as Mount Wachusett for courses, and then also the AP program. And then we have an honors class where the rigor of the courses is a little bit harder for the kids who take those. If they're taking Humanities 1 honors, it's a little tougher than Humanities 1 not honors.
Mhm.
So that's the 4 main tracks, and the program of studies been updated to reflect that, and that's been really great improvements there. And of course, we're adding AP classes now that we have labs where we can teach biology and physics to the appropriate level where we can offer AP. We'll be doing that. More in computer science. We'll be offering CAD 1 and 2, where we've got the 3D printers that came as part of the high school project. There was a certain amount of budget in that from the state that gave us new equipment, because what's a nice shiny lab without the right equipment? So we got 2 3D printers, so we can actually, Mary sent some folks to WPI to a professional development class, short money to train people how to teach CAD and bring 3D printers into the curriculum for CAD.
Those are pretty fascinating machines, huh?
Yeah, they really
Yeah,
are.
incredible.
Well, we took earth science and made it an elective as opposed to a mandatory thing, and we're telling that kids have to take principles of engineering as their entry-level science, or honors biology if we think they're at that point where they can take the MCAS biology test as freshmen rather than sophomore. Adding Latin back because it was there a couple years ago and it was taken out, and then kids have been asking for it, and so we think we can teach a section of Latin.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. My granddaughter has had 3 years, and she's 8 years old, 3 years ago. She thought I could have a dialogue with her, because my daughter told her I learned Latin in school.
as well as I remember my Spanish high school.
I took 4 years of Latin in school, and
Yeah, exactly. I took 12. I didn't have
Yeah.
a choice.
I can read a few inscriptions here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Translate a little, but I can't have a dialogue.
That's about it.
Yes, it does. I did very well on my SATs.
We're looking at Mandarin. It may not come in this year, but the reason it's even on there is the next to last bullet about the international program. I think you guys have heard of that, but again, assuming that some people are going to watch this on recordings or something in the newspaper.
YouTube.
Mary has started I keep saying Mary, should be more formal. Dr. Malone has started a international program. It's very different from your typical exchange student program, where actually the families of the student pay to a company that then finds spots for these people. We're actually, with Pat's help, put a brochure together where we marketed ourselves, the train station being a big thing, believe it or not, because students come from China or Brazil, want to be near a major city and be able to get in and out of that city pretty easily, and they're not going to be able to drive, right? These kids are going to, well, they might be 16, 17 years old, they probably won't have Massachusetts or, driver's licenses.
Right.
So the metropolitan city that's close by with the train, all those things play into their decision. So we're hoping to get 3 to 5 students next year. China is the main country that this company is marketing to at the moment, but they're starting to move into Brazil as well. And if we start getting a significant enough of Chinese students here, we might want to offer Mandarin, or then they can interact with the kids who are learning that and talk to them about their language, and we have a multicultural situation going on there. So I don't know, I haven't heard if we've got any actual candidates yet. I know we were hoping 3 to 5 this year, but we'd also just
I
start
haven't
marketing
heard
it.
yet.
So this company does all the marketing for you. They take a cut from the family who pays for the kid to come over. Some want to come for the senior year so they can say they graduated from a U.S. high school because they might want to go to college in the U.S. Others just want a year of the experience. They might come over as sophomores or juniors just to have a year in the U.S. So that's something we've taken a couple exchange student kids in, but this is a more formal program that's a revenue generator, right? Because we collect tuition from that.
Good.
And then I mentioned the last thing there. So last thing is where we feel the challenges. Pat, do you want to take it, or want me to just keep going?
No, sure. I think alluded to a little bit more earlier about the revenue challenges, right? So there's several things going on right now. And it's not a year-to-year budget thing, but it's long-term challenges. Number one is the Chapter 7D funding. So Chapter 7D that came with Ed Reform in '93 never took into account the massive increases in special education costs, nor the massive increase in health insurance. So if you take a look at the part of our budget that goes to special ed, then you're talking about north of 16, probably just a little less than 20% of our budget. Take a look of 11% of our budget going to healthcare. That's, yes, you want to take care of the students in special ed, but the inflationary rate is out of control in special ed. So they have that circuit breaker fund, which they've never fully funded. But the circuit breaker, for people who don't understand what that is, that's when you are paying 4 times the regular cost of a student. So if your average tuition or your average per pupil cost is 11 grand, you can apply for circuit breaker relief after you're spending more than 45 grand a year for a student to receive educational services, whether it's through a collaborative or residential or day program.
You can apply, but that doesn't automatically mean you receive.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And because it's a budgetary item, it gets whacked consistently.
Because
And-
they don't understand what it's for or how it works.
Yeah, well, they consider it, like it's a reimbursement, but you can't, we just found out we got certified at 522.
Yeah.
We have $522,000 E&D. That is all the stabilization rainy day money we have on a budget of $27 million. You're a finance committee. You know that is not a good position for us to be in.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about it, but we have still not yet put in our budget, an assessment to the towns, $100K for our stabilization fund. We should have a cap station, right? We have 2 elementary schools that we spend money on that we ought to have a fund for. The problem being that the cost of those programs are so out of control that this August, a family could move into town and their student joins our school district, and it could cost us $250,000 next school year to educate their student. That's not in our budget today. And there is no choice to that. We have to find a way to come up with that and cover that, which is why we need to have some E&D money to do that. But what we're looking for is the state to be able to support that kind of a wild card in our regular budget. And the original circuit breaker was supposed to be that, but it's not that, because it gets used as a chip during the budgeting process. And it's either, it's supposed to be fully funded. It's never been fully funded. It was most recently, last year, funded at 75, but then we lost money because the 9C cuts. They went after that. The 9C cuts went after regional transportation. And we can't charge for transportation. We can't charge parents because we're a regional district. A local town could. If it was just Ayer, you could actually charge, but as a region, you may not.
Because you get reimbursed by the state,
because there's a reimbursement, but that also is a chip during the budgeting process, which gets tweaked, and that's never been funded fully either. So we submit for that, and it's always a year in arrears. So we're spending what we spend, $500,000 on busing, and then, we might get back 65%.
Of that. Yeah, you might get back $300,000.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So this is what I'm talking about. The real challenges we have is part of it is just getting the money that the state said that they're supposed to do to support schools. The Chapter 70 formula itself, which is separate from regional transportation and circuit breaker, doesn't account for those other things, so that when look at the increases in our budget this year, right? You don't see a new 6th grade teacher or a new science program.
New kindergarten class.
We need to spend $50,000 for a new set of math books, but we can't afford them because of these things that we have to cover.
We need more custodial service in that new high school, which Mary wanted to add, Dr. Moore wanted to add another custodian, which we took out. We have ELL, English language learner kids, that's our population in that area is growing. We could use more ELL staff to take the load off the classroom teachers, and we're not adding that, which we really need either. So there's things that were not the superintendent's budget that she brought forth, you guys have seen, that we need, but we just, it's so much fixed cost and making up for state shortcomings, but that's where a lot of the funding's going.
Yeah, we didn't even put that here today, but you remember from the first presentation, Dr. Malone came to us with the superintendent's budget, and that was a 17% increase, and we knocked 1.2 million off of that right away, and none of those ideas are bad or even outlandish things to actually do, but clearly it was not reasonable to come to the towns with a 17% increase for educational funding, and we try to be responsible when we do this stuff. But yeah, and we're concerned about the custodial because we want that new building to last the 50, 60 years it's supposed to, like the last one did. And the only way is if you take care of the thing, right? So what we hope is, that we partner with both communities in this, which is this partly political activity. And we've gotten support from our representatives and our senator when we've asked for things. Matter of fact, every single budget since the region has been in existence, you remember that the governor had promised this regional incentive money, which was a pool of money which we knew would decrease each year over 5 years. And in all 5 years, it has not been in the budget, and our reps and senators have asked for it and gotten it back in. Part of the problem is, there's a half a dozen regions that are so new that they actually qualify for it. But they have been supported and got it back in. But this is bigger, this is higher level conversations. Chapter 70 funding conversations are taking place now. There have been hearings all over the state, and there's a lot more momentum on it now than there's been since I've been involved in the school district, to seriously take a look at what the funding
governor
is.
has talked about it to a certain extent as well. I don't know where it's going to come down in his budget or how it came down, but I know he's talked about it a few times.
The committee that's doing the hearings now was formed prior to his election, so this is it's something that the legislature wanted to do, and they're they're focused primarily on healthcare and special education, because as Pat explained, they really weren't
Those are
accounted
the
for in the
big
formula. But
ones.
they're looking at other things as well. I mean, it could get kind of complex by the time they figure out exactly what they want to do. But if they could at least hit those two issues, but again, then where's the revenue come from to cover it? They recognize, yeah, we're leaving public schools in the state short of $1.5 billion, so where does the $1.5 billion come from? That'll be in a further discussion. So it's not going to be changed anytime soon, but at least there is dialogue. There hasn't been, but as we stated earlier, the increases have been too small. There was a letter circulated around amongst a bunch of representatives to actually ask for a $50 increase on Chapter 70 per student instead of a $20, and we got to 25 from the House, which has been, again, the history, but they're afraid of inflation. That's not covering those $1.2 million worth of fixed cost things we're seeing in health insurance and utilities and contractual obligations. And so the call to action that we're really kind of looking for is we need a team, both, the three communities, is not, kind of be adversarial to say, this, yes, the towns have done great stuff the last few years picking up these gradual reductions in the state, but it's not sustainable, right? So we have to lobby the state and attend these hearings when they're held and make sure our voices are heard, that this is, it's largely the state not living up to its promises and obligations that then it gets passed to the towns. And thankfully, through fiscal 15, the towns have worked with us and have accepted what we've worked with the towns. We kept bringing, as the first slide showed, we had a one number in the beginning, and then over time that has come down, every year that there's been reductions. On average, about 250,000. This year we took it down by 460. So the issue becomes, to ease the burden on the towns, we need to work together to put pressure on the state to live up to its obligations and work with our state reps and other various parties. I think that's what we need to try to do. So we're kind of all in it together, right? I mean, a bad Neshoba Tech assessment for Shirley impacts their ability to, fund our assessment, fund both, actually. They asked for a reduction from Neshoba Tech, just like they asked for a reduction from us.
Mhm.
And the part for us that was not sustainable is they wanted to go after that E&D fund Pat was talking about. So what was happening is they had a lot of town hall cuts recommended, and the town employees that live in the town came out with their friends and put everything back in. And they took it out of stabilization to do it. So they're trying to protect stabilization from getting taken down further. When we proposed to fund this $157,000 delta we had out of stabilization, they said, well, what about your own E&D? I said, well, we're not certified yet. We think it's going to be 500, a little over. We'll go after that. And I said, well, $157,000 out of that for Shirley means 2x that to Ayer. Our total hit is $471,000. That basically empties E&D. That's not an option. We can't do it. So then it's like, okay, if we take $471K out, well, then it's out of the operating budget. That gets into the classroom and takes the momentum away that we've had of all this additional programming and kids staying and enrollment going up. So that's not really an option either, which is why we didn't take a vote last night, but the sentiment of the committee was we're likely to stay where we are, but we thought it was only fair to wait for Ayer to have its town meeting for the citizens to vote on the assessment before we made any.
Question on the E&D. If something catastrophic did happen and that E&D was not able to cover, you'd come back to the towns for whatever funding was necessary, correct? So say, heavens forbid, a $750,000 hit comes your way, you deplete your E&D, you're still on the hook for almost $220,000. Your fallback is to the towns themselves, correct?
Yes, we would have to.
Okay.
Yeah. We can't change our operating budget. We would have to put
Yeah.
some other kind of funding request together.
You need a special town meeting of some sort.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Probably
Couple of them.
2/3 voted a stabilization
Stabilization,
funds
yeah.
kind of thing, yeah, probably. But I mean, we're at about 2.5% of our budget, as Pat
Right.
mentioned,
No,
$27 million budget.
and I appreciate that, and I understand that. I mean, we've lucked out in Ayer because we've had, we actually, I think one of our lawsuits was settled, and all of a sudden we actually had a stabilization fund, which we never had, and that was when I first got on the committee. I think because I went to the regional leadership meetings that started, I think they were in August of last year, and first off, I see your note of starting them in October. I think that's way too late, because once December comes, everyone gets in the budget season, and I think that's when the communication everyone gets bogged down with their ability to work together. The frustration I had from the regional leadership meetings was two things. One is there was really no, I guess, set agenda of what we wanted to accomplish and what we were looking to accomplish from the get-go. It was, I'll be honest, it was refreshing to be in a smaller group where I think it was a better flow of ideas and better communication. However, by the third meeting, I think it just got back into the same quagmire where, the discussion was, well, we got to change the assessment formula. We need to do this. We need to stop bickering. And it just kind of felt like, it's that, the proverbial dead horse. We just kind of rolled it out and we just started beating it, We like to do that in municipality, believe me. I proposed at the last one, and I still believe this. I think the key to solving for the long term is really mitigating the short term. The phase-in is a huge burden for both towns, primarily Shirley, to know where we stand assessment-wise, and really to be able to look at what the future holds. Because, I know Shirley is kind of the limiting factor in the whole thing, and Ayer, we're looking at it from a standpoint, we want to protect our investment that we've made over the last 4 or 5 years. But really, until we get through the phase, and I don't think we have a good financial, just on the assessments. I know that it's separate from the operating budget, and there's other things. The one thing I will add is I really appreciated the presentation that Dr. Malone gave, where she did show how much the towns have borne of the decreases in the Chapter 70 local aid. It was just refreshing to actually hear that hey, you guys have saved our backs. So in regards to the E&D with some of the pushes for that, and I'm not requesting it, I'm not suggesting it, is, if the towns are your fallback, if it needs to get us or get through the next couple of years, keeping programs intact, but also keeping assessments at a certain level, it's something you may want to, discuss, because you do have the towns as a fallback if anything does happen.
Appreciate that. Thank you. One thing you guys will probably be interested in, I haven't seen it actually put in the newspaper yet, but it's public because it was said at the selectmen's meeting, it was said at our meeting last night. I think the last town meeting where they tried to do what they could to bring town hall costs down and some other departments, and people rated stabilization and put it all back in. They wanted those jobs to be at the same amount of hours and same salaries. There's now seemingly an appetite to start talking override. So the town administrator reached out to a superintendent and asked for some school representation on a committee that'll start meeting 10 a.m. on Tuesdays soon, which we don't think is viable time. That's a whole other discussion. But
If people do work.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was, and Joyce went to the selectmen's meeting, and they said the word override. That's why they're calling it a budget planning committee, but it's really to look at what would we need to do and how much should it be, and we're happy to support it, whatever numbers they want from us, and where we think might be helpful in the assessments. To look at.
A conversation I've had with the Shirley Town Administrator is her concern is having an override simply for the schools if the assessment pushes them to that, because they have other budgetary issues that they need to solve. She was hoping to kind of stem the tide so that a year or two from now she could have, I guess, what they're starting to look at now, which is the overall budget.
I think town meeting, when everybody just decided they wanted to spend a certain amount of money and have a certain amount of services available to them, and I guess the leaders have now said, okay, if that's what the people want, they don't have to pay for it. We have nowhere else to go except to start talking.
Step in the right direction.
So that's happening at least.
No particular order. First, thanks for coming. You guys are a lot too. Two, I don't know who will be on this committee next year or yours, but I almost
We
would.
know Dan will be.
Yeah, congratulations.
And Pat, you have another year, right?
That was a year.
Yeah.
Michelle was two.
True, so at least we know who our reps are.
But I know I'd certainly welcome even a second budget session with the schools just to do the words, skip all the numbers. I learned something tonight. I've already been through your budget. Another thought is, I'm just curious, I know you can't speak to Shirley Town Meeting, but do you know if the top of page 3 was presented that their town meeting shows really a 2% overall increase?
It was,
Because I always get hung up on the 8%, the assessment myself.
yeah.
I was wondering the same.
And the first thing I think each year is good luck.
Well, and that's understandable, but and that's why we wanted to. We get that. We know, we lost $500,000 in ERA funds, and you guys filled that gap. We lost. We had 2 move-ins, which cost us $500,000 in sped funds in a single year, and you guys covered that. And so like I said, your increases have been twice that, closer to 5%, but we've only had 2% more. And as you know, 2% more is not a lot more to do with.
Well, that's spot on with what the other the other departments are this year, this version of the budget, the very bottom line. My thing at the time is whoever was gonna have to go into collective bargain this year is gonna get their car cleaned. 'Cause everyone focused on the 8%, but
Mm-hmm,
it's a nice number to point to now.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
I think the long-term sustainability is if that trend continues, and we have very, as you know, I mean, we have very limited ways to generate revenue. You know, we can collect football games, and we collect fees for kids for parking and activities. This international
That doesn't cover.
No, that doesn't
No.
cover anything.
And you don't do flat student activity fees, right? It is a per activity, so if someone plays on a sports team,
There's a cap, so if you do more than one thing,
yeah.
you don't have to.
Or
But I
if you have
know,
more
like,
than one
for
kid.
example,
Yeah.
some districts, as soon as you enroll into a school, you get charged an activity fee, whether you play sports or not, whether you do
Oh.
activities
At
or
the
not.
high school and elementary level?
At,
I mean, we did that in college, but.
no, some high schools
Wow.
actually do that,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
they are, that's
My-
true,
my-
but
my
no, we
nephew
don't.
gets charged, he's in a middle school, I'll leave the town out.
Uh,
But,
No, we
you know,
charge in
'cause I know-
middle and high school for
Yeah.
those who choose to participate in those,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's where we've all.
Yeah, because I know part of the challenge that we as a district have are, you know, when you look at some of the numbers of the student population, you mentioned like, you know, the percentage on free lunch, et cetera, is building a program that offers everything that, to everyone. However, it's presented in a way where it's not, it doesn't exclude anyone because they financially can't afford it.
That's true.
And that's a challenge. I think you guys have done a great job with that. You know, from the assessment side, it's just, it gets frustrating, you know,
Mhm.
trying to build a budget year to year.
Mhm.
You know, my concern is solving for the long term is getting the schools, at some point, what do they need? Like, what does your E&D need to be? What does your capital need to be? So that those assessments can actually come down to a manageable level year after year.
Mhm.
And I know we're probably years away from getting there, but I think once we get through the phase in, I think that's step one. And if we can have some productive conversations at some point, you know, looking forward to FY16, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, touching on your comment about negotiations, and if I was in the DPW union or the fire union, I'd certainly use that number as a chip. But it's really apples and oranges because there's no place where the citizen can go and choice out their fire department services. Right? We've got a school choice issue. There's no charter police departments where someone can say, I'm going to get my police services from this charter police department. I want to. Right, I mean, these competitions we have,
They're much nicer.
these competitive issues don't exist. We're almost acting more as a private company in a way where we have to give people reasons to want to come here because they've got options,
Right.
and the surrounding options aren't bad. Right, it's not like we're not bordering. I don't know. I'll just generically say a major municipal
Yeah.
school district that may not be doing so well. We're bordering some pretty good school districts, and
Has the school committee ever had a discussion putting in a line item for what I'll call PR? Just, you know, printing costs. I'm sure you get the same postcards I get, seems to be once a week from the Sherwood Tech, you know, to Ryan and to me.
They probably print them in-house and there's no
Well, that's a good
cost.
point.
when we were at Ayer, more so than the region, we discussed it, but again, you come down to this time of year and there's only so much money to go around, right? It's like, the expression can be you can squeeze on the pillow one end and the other end goes up. So if someone says 25 grand for PR, I'm gonna say get that out of there, because if you want this other thing, then take the money and put it there. What's PR? And it would never. I don't think it would have a good chance of going through compared to the other needs that we would have. But certainly, yeah, that's frustrating on the Sherwood Tech side is the amount of money that they're able to spend on recruitment and PR that we can't do. But regardless,
Yeah, I
I
think
think the high school numbers speak to the fact that even without that, just by putting in extracurricular programming like robotics and mock trial and fixing the building and adding to the program of studies, whether it be things at the middle school level with the foreign language up to AP and everything in between, we've built a really competitive program of studies on this budget that we feel competitively is fine, and I think we're seeing people agree with the numbers going up from 307 in 2012 to 400 next year. Right, so, and we don't have a lot of headwind. 495 is all the school was built for, right? So if we 400 to 500 would be a good range, healthy range for us to be in.
Right.
That's all I had.
Well, thank
I
you.
think that's
It's been a lot longer than I thought it would. We
Yeah.
appreciate you giving us some
No,
time.
thank you very much for coming by, I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Good information to have.
Thank you.
We'll see you Monday.
See you Monday.
Mr. Kelly won't, he'll be traveling, but.
Sorry, I won't be there.
You can hire someone to take your place, right? Kidding.
It's not as hot as it was last year up there with windows open and noise.
Well, it's supposed to be warm and rainy.
Yeah, and Monday's not supposed to be the best weather day.
No.
Wow, we need to work on the moderator to get him to move it to the air-conditioned auditorium we have in the high school now. Plenty of parking.
The air conditioning is on now, though. He turned it on yesterday.
It actually works. They're not going to wait until Monday to turn it on? You think it
No,
works?
the air conditioning is on, he switched it over. He could do it from the cable.
Right. All right, it's getting late, so just real quick, the other piece of new business, presentation for town meeting. I started trying to pull something together and ran out of time for the last couple of days. I want to keep it to maybe 3 or 4 slides. General information. I usually give an overall what the percentage increases are for revenue, operating, the assessments, other ancillary costs that we have going out, and then what the 3 biggest movements are, biggest increases. I think we have 1, 2 decreases this year. That's it. But I do want to highlight those because I think they're good. They're good progress for what we've been working on. The other thing I wanted to try to do is I started updating the 5-year budget model, as I want to try to build a graph that shows kind of what the operating budget is over the last 5. And I don't know if, since we haven't seen anyone has seen the model, I don't know if I'm comfortable projecting out 5 years, being the only one who's looked at it. So I think
It
it'll
might be a
just,
little more than town meeting can handle,
yeah.
too.
So because it's a complex issue when you look ahead.
And I don't mean that they couldn't understand it. I mean, it's a lot
It just
of
never,
data to absorb.
it never looks
at that
good 5
type of a
years out.
meeting, yeah,
It
yeah.
never looks good 5 years out. So I think just show what the last, I think I have the last 4 or 5 year trend is on the operating budget. Just show where we're landing. Is there anything else other than that we want to touch upon for town meeting or any budget? I
As
want to
part of
highlight
our-
the new
as part of our
position.
report.
Yeah, so the percentage increases, the biggest movers, increases, decreases, and also new positions. So we have the part-time records clerk and then the children's librarian is the other increase. Because I think those are the key things that, I like to try to call out key things that I want to make them aware of. Like, before you just vote for the budget, this is in there, so they can have that discussion if they want.
It's probably on one of your slides already, just the fact that we try to pay for things rather than borrow when it comes to capital, whatever possible. Trying to save on
Yeah,
the interest.
that's,
Okay.
yeah,
Capital
we've
purchases.
managed over the last couple of years to reduce the amount of borrowing by using the available free
Yeah,
cash.
and
for
actually one of the
certain-
biggest reductions we have
programs.
is principal and interest because we've gone that route.
You might want to throw in the word capital exclusion in there so they understand that that's kind of what we're doing, except we have the benefit of having the
No,
cash
that
on
did not
hand.
end well either time. No, we are not allowed to say those words in this committee anymore. Another waste of my
Best
time.
invention in municipal finance there ever was. And,
Makes
and
sense, but-
nobody wants to understand it.
I was to say OPEB, but I mean, what to say, we're going to put money in OPEB again, that's in the budget.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's on the warrant.
You're going to highlight those budget lines that have the significant increases and the significant.
Yeah, so the
decreases.
top three monetary increases are healthcare, the police department, and the fire department.
And the Board of Selectmen have 17%. Not to harp on them, please don't misunderstand.
Look
But
at
thought
I think
they
you're
had
talking dollar value as opposed to.
total
okay,
dollar
I'm thinking
value, yeah, total
percentages.
value, dollar. Yeah, so those are the 3 biggest movers, which DPW is excluded because it's broken out by by
Plus, it's got
section.
enterprise fund funding.
Yeah,
So
so,
that doesn't really count.
That's all good.
that's all, that's it, okay. All right, I will put something together this week
Is
for
somebody
Monday.
standing in the street out there directing traffic or something? Or, oh, that's Pat. Oh, sorry.
Is Pat direct?
Pat is out there directing traffic.
He's gesturing, but I didn't recognize him, so I'm sorry. It just looked like they shouldn't have been standing with us.
All right, so I will get that done when I can for Monday. Any other new business before we move out of new business? Being none, no old business at this point. Mail, we have the new town reports out. It's also available online. The cover is, looks like photos of
The employees,
the employees and some of the fun things that they do.
literally.
We also got from Neshoba Valley Technical High School. I should just stop call back.
Postcard.
There is a town meeting on Monday, and our budget still stands at $4.21. So we have 2 months to use that.
How
Or
much?
A month and a half. $4.21. A reserve
Not even
fund
enough for
transfer
lunch.
is $248,927 less $36,000 for tonight. I was hoping to do minutes, but given the hour, I think we'll postpone to our next meeting. Upcoming business, 5-year budget model, I'd started it. I was hoping to get something put together for tonight, but unfortunately couldn't. Any committee updates, Mr. Cook Cummins?
No, not for capital. We're back in our cocoon until the fall. School building committee last met sometime in April. And the budget itself is on schedule. It's still trending above budget for the Ayer Shirley portion to the tune of about $250 right now. It's not anticipated to go beyond that, and then there's still room for value engineering, but there's some strong feelings at the table. Full speed ahead, let's finish it how we want it. We'll find the money. And there's some other people saying, no, let's cut it back. It's an open issue in that committee.
Okay. Moving on to me, executive by board, we attempted to meet a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, I think it actually ended up being
It
a
was on a
holiday.
holiday or
Yeah, it was on a
something.
holiday. It was on Patriots Day. Regional leadership, now we discussed that we haven't met in a while. Personnel board is currently on hiatus until after town meeting. Committee roundtable, I'll open up to anything.
I got nothing.
No? Open up to the floor. Oh, sorry, Pauline.
Just one thing I would like to suggest we do before the end of the fiscal year. It doesn't have to be, well, that's what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We should get another update on the status of the litigation before the end of the year,
Okay.
given the need for the transfer and potential another one. So if another one comes through, we should have at least the update on those that
That makes sense. That's a good idea.
Okay.
That would
causing
have to be
increase.
executive session, right?
Yes, it would have
Yeah.
to be executive session.
My understanding from other conversations was one of those cases was done. But
May not be public, though.
no, but I was surprised to hear it mentioned is all I'm saying, because I understood it to be done. But the information may not have been correct. Things happen
It
in those
happens.
cases.
All right, upcoming schedule, annual town meeting on Monday. Just a reminder, we are members of the Finance Committee, but we attend town meeting as personal citizens, so therefore feel free to vote and speak out as you wish. Any commentary from the table has to be from the Finance Committee perspective. And if you want to speak against something or speak on a personal level on anything, you do need to go down to the floor and use the microphones on the floor. Next regularly scheduled meeting. This meeting, and with this meeting tonight and town meeting next week, we're not going to meet next week as normally scheduled. So we'll shoot for May 27th at
That's
7
all.
p.m.
That's the holiday week. That's still okay
Yes,
with
it's
everybody?
the Wednesday after Memorial Day. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:52.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.